as a child, 5, 6 years old, my parents influenced me. When looking back, you don't realize it while you're going through it, of course, but Dad was a hobbyist painter in oil paints, and Mum was a ceramist. And I remember making a little figure in ceramics when I was 5 or 6. And then I think when I was 10, I whittled, we heated the house with wood. And we had a pine board, which I cut up and whittled into a squirrel. But since then, my life did not really, I didn't touch art until, decades later. And in between, I was a journalist, I was a management consultant, and then an artist. So this is my third career. And I've always had an interest in art and going to sculpture gardens and in museums. And so finally, when I was a management consultant, I said, I saw, and it was just like that. I saw a glass vase in a store window, and I said, I'm going to learn how to do that. I started out, and it's still the central medium for me, is cast glass. Not blown glass. I did blown glass, at least I went to school in Sweden to do the basics and learn blown glass, but then I decided that cast glass, which allows me a greater range of opportunities for doing sculpture, because that's what I wanted to do. And so I apprenticed with a master of cast glass in England, and then set up a studio and did cast glass objects. And then they were the basis really for me broadening out my materials, because I was interested in going large, and you can't easily go large with glass because the technical challenge is exponential. And so I went large in granite, and then in the last year I said, well, I'd like to branch out and see what bronze is like. And so it's been quite an interesting transition from glass and then to granite and then now to bronze. The motivation for changing materials was primarily to going large, because with granite, the largest piece I've done is 9 feet long, 9 tons, and that would be impossible in glass. And so the other thing too, in going into other materials, is just be able to take a look at something I created in glass and see how it translates into other materials, and see how light, of course, is central to glass, and light is central to the other works too, but in a different way, and discovering how the light effects happen with the different materials was part of the exploration that I was following. One aspect of my artistic evolution, if one calls that, I was quite into photography through high school and university, and that was, one flat art, and it wasn't sculptural, and I did some lovely photos, and then I switched to wanting to make sculpture, do 3D work, and that must have been a combination of wanting to touch the material, obviously, to make the sculpture. And now I still keep photography and I do sculpture in parallel. But I've never, I'm an awful drawer. I can't draw. So maybe that's why I do abstract pieces predominantly. And I'd like to be able to draw and sketch, but no. And that adds another thing to it, is that I'm autodidact in that I've never taken an art course. The apprentissage that I had and the course in glassblowing was totally geared to the technical process of making pieces. But as far as goes for art education, I've had essentially none except reading. And my sculptures are really a departure from my past work, in that when you're a journalist you do stories, and when you're a management consultant you've got stories in effect of whatever you're working on. But no, my artwork does not have any narrative. It's the object, and it's the form, it's the color, it's the texture, and people can take from that whatever subliminal things may have affected me in doing it. I think there's one or two pieces which have roots in nature, and but nothing more than that. And one thing I really do appreciate, that people derive meaning from work that artists can never anticipate. And it's lovely when that happens, and that connection, the emotional connection, emotional translation, attraction to a piece that takes their breath away is, well, that would be just a delight for an artist to experience. There are two parts in the creative process that one enjoys, and that's obviously the conception. And then the part one does not really enjoy all that much is the work in creating it physically. Because doing cast glass is quite, it's dirty, you've got plaster, you've got molds, you've got to polish the glass, cut the glass. I call it the rot work. And at the end, what's entrancing is when you are polishing and the piece emerges, and the transparency in the glass, you see things in it that were unanticipated and emerge as you polish. And as the polish becomes higher gloss and you really get finished with a beautifully polished piece, then it reveals itself. And of course, when it's complete, that creates great pleasure. In branching out into other materials, I needed to have help because I don't have any skills in carving stone or casting bronze. So I discovered a stone carver in Deauville, just near Magog, and I'd heard that he does work with architects and also sculptors. Went to visit him. Very friendly guy, open to the idea of working and collaborating. So I will bring the maquette to the stone carving studio, and Slavo does the hands-on work with the rock while I'm right there as well. So every step of the way, we're collaborating, and he'll say, no, I don't think we should go that far, or I'll say, how about this? And it works out very well. With the bronze process, it's much more detached in the sense that they are the foundry, and there's no involvement except when they make it's a lost wax process. They create a wax from which they make a mold, melt out the wax, and then put the bronze in. And what I do is when they have the wax made, I go and inspect it for its quality and make points where I want it to be improved. And then they take the wax and they carry on the whole process. And then at the end, I come back and we discuss the patina that I want. There's that aspect that I'm involved with, as opposed to the actual physical. It's more with the aesthetic and the final look of the piece. There's so many things that stimulate me, or just my own mind has got a deep curiosity about things, and I've got an eye for noticing things. So it's easy to become stimulated and think of projects. One thing is going to concerts. I find that with the music, ideas come, and then actually, as you fall to sleep or you wake up in the morning, there's that transition period where there's lots, your brain is happening and ideas come in. But it's just, for the most part, it's tout à coup, there's a thought of, gee, I could do that. And so the imagination, the creation, the spark of a new piece emerges out of that.